Consent agenda in front of you. You got the agenda, the minutes, the financials. You received all of those. If there's no questions or comments on them, I'd accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as stated.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
Got a motion, second. Okay, any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Motion carried. Don't look like we have any public comment this morning, so we'll move right on to Lana's report.
Good morning.
Morning.
Prospect 219, we've continued to follow up with them. The property that we had initially identified for them, the owners couldn't find a way to sell that to them. It was owned through an interesting ownership arrangement, so we're continuing to work with them to find additional options that might work. Project Birmingham, we have had additional meetings and are working now diligently on finishing up some workforce type concerns and that type of stuff. Pinkies have contractors working on their new location. As a reminder, they're going into the Garden City Plaza and are hoping to be open shortly. Project Rochester, that's the First National Bank project between Quick Shop and Target there on the hill. And we're working with them to do some additional business recruitment into that. We're down to about 3 lots is all that's left to fill. So I think that's going to fill up quickly and nicely. And again, that'll be a really nice completion of that East Kansas Avenue corridor.
Any idea on the starting deal for that?
Well,
First phase?
we're working with Target on an access point up on the hill through their parking lot, basically. And once that's done, I think everything can kind of move forward. But until we know for sure how that's going to go with Target, it's
Okay.
difficult to get started because that will change how it gets laid out based on whether or not we get that access.
Are they going to extend that Harding on across into that Harding Street will kind of come across campus and
Yes, there'll be a
go on up
campus
through
entrance to it. It's just, again, it's depending on whether or not we get that hilltop access will kind of make a difference on how everything else gets laid out access-wise. Yeah. Transload facility, TPNL did purchase the additional 140 acres to the east of the facility, and the zoning has been changed on that. While the Planning Commission has approved it, we still have to take it to the County Commission. So we're providing them some additional information for understanding of how that acreage will be used and so forth. We are still working on some additional industrial park land out south of town and continuing to work with utility providers and the county on access to it. Lots and lots of November meetings. We've been very busy at the office, and doesn't look like it's going to slow down anytime soon. And December again looks to be a busy month for us. We have the Kansas Association of City and County Managers will be here in Garden City next week for their annual meeting. And I've been asked to facilitate an economic development bus tour for them, as well as serve on a child care panel for them as well. And then in December, we have been asked, Great Bend has recently separated their economic development from their Chamber of Commerce and formed a separate board and so forth. And they've asked to come spend a day with us, so they're going to come out on December 11th. We've shared bylaws and budget, various information with them that can kind of help them to set up theirs. And they'd just like the opportunity to bring their entire board out to have a day with us to have a good understanding of how we do it in Finney County and find success. And that is child care. Things are continuing to move forward. And we do have, again, we have a proposal out to a private employer on being able to operate a child care facility for them. And we've been answering questions back and forth and following up with that. So hopefully we'll have resolution on that soon. And just as a reminder, the next regular meeting for FCEDC will be December 18th so a week early, and here in the City Commission chambers. And that is all I have.
Questions? Comments?
Sounds pretty succinct.
Things are moving pretty well. A couple of the projects are looking real good right now, so hopefully we'll get some groundbreakings and announcements going here just pretty quickly and see how things move ahead. If there's no questions, we'll move on to Nicole.
All right, good morning.
Good morning.
Last Wednesday, we had the Western Kansas Workforce Challenge at Garden City Community College. We had about 40 people that participated. The majority of them were non-local, so we had quite a few coming in from out of town to attend that. It was a full day's events, and we had speaker topics that were on essential skills, apprenticeships, investing in employees, education and workforce alignment, and dealing with employees with disabilities. I think the comments that we received on it were really good, so learned a lot, I think, and I think we have people looking forward to the one next year if we decide to do it. So I think we got a good start on some things, but I think it was nice to offer it to the people out here as an alternate to not having to drive to Kansas City or Wichita or to go to these conferences that they've been offering. So we're also working on, 2 weeks ago, they had their Traeger turkey class, and they ended up doing 2 sessions of it. We helped with that, partnered with the college and with Klauswood Pellets to do that. And they ended up, I think, raising over $1,000, and so he's going to write a check back to the judging team for $750, I think, roughly, which should help them with their trailer expenses from about a month ago when they had their unfortunate incident in Amarillo. Also, we're working on a beer tasting class with the brewery. They're going to be also doing some food pairings with that. We don't have a limit on that class. It's $35 a person. They're billing it as a Thursday night date night. So I think they'll be doing it in the basement of the brew house to kind of allow them to keep the restaurant upstairs open, but give them a little more private event downstairs. I think that'll be really exciting. They have some neat seasonal beers right now on tap, so they're going to be featuring those. And then also, next Friday is the high school career fair. We have pretty good interest right now. I think registration is open for just a couple more days. Doing the same format as we've done in the past, which is basically we take half of the freshmen and we put them in the commons area with the employers, and they get the opportunity to talk to all the employers. And then the other half are in the auditorium, and they get to listen to speakers for about 30 minutes, talk about, usually we try to get local people that have born and raised here and have chosen to stay here or come back, and they talk about their career, why they chose to live in Garden City, what classes those kids need to be taking, if that's a career that they're so choosing. And this year, we've kind of switched it up on topics. For the past couple of years, we've done really similar speakers, but this year we kind of branched out and got some different people to come talk. So we have representation from the Finney County Sheriff, High Plains Public Radio, Excelicare, and Sunflower Electric. So they'll be talking to the kids for about 30 minutes, and then they flip-flop back and forth, and so that group will go back out into the commons area. Usually takes us about 3 hours to get that done, so. Anyways, that's all I have. If you guys have questions.
Any questions?
I think
Bob?
the workforce summit was a great idea, and it's something that can be done on a regular basis, but I think it needs to be done. And we've got to find a way to break through the business community, to get them a little more involved. And I think we've got to find a way to engage local businesses, and I think, at least a natural starting point would be the Chamber of Commerce, that we've got to find a way to start getting them involved with us and with them and as partners rather than adversaries.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And I do want to thank Bob for speaking on the panel at that Workforce Summit. Even though he couldn't see his notes and couldn't read his notes, I guess he got by pretty well for almost an hour.
I
So
can still dance.
yeah, so that went pretty good. So, okay, any other questions or anything? If not, Shannon, you gonna tell us?
Good morning.
Good morning.
For the social media, the GreaterGardenCity.com website had 3,300 visits over the last 28 days, which is 100 visits a day. Some of the top stories there were the Fire Chief Assessment Center at Garden City. There's a turkey trot at Burning Sits. Raffle playing for the meat judging team to replace said trailer that was lost in Amarillo. Broncbusters was over Hutchinson, and then Tyson partnering with Donors Choose for the school district. The Facebook pages, Garden City Journal had 81,579 post views, which is about 3,000 a day. Reached 20,000 people, or just short of 20,000 people over that 28-day span, and had 12,000 engagements. There's some top posts there. One interesting thing is, because I'm reviewing these in 28-day spans, so every span that we look at is this equal size. There's a post about Taco John's that happened more than 28 days ago, but didn't happen in October either, so it kind of fell in between. That single post is a testament to the popularity of Taco John's, apparently. That one post itself in Facebook had 52,000 views and 12,000 engagements, and that wasn't included in either of those. So if you just go back a couple days for a more complete picture of November, we're up to 137,000 views on Facebook. And then Greater Garden City also, we got 7,000 post views there, about 252 a day. So that's the social media stuff, doing just about what we'd expect to be doing, what we have been doing. So nothing too different there, except for we now know that people like Taco John's a lot.
Yeah.
So the other thing that, one of the other things we've been working on is KDOT's been doing their listening tour, or whatever they're calling it, but they're doing a 10-year and 25-year visioning thing. And so I've been putting together some data. This is specifically talking about what does a divided highway look like in Kansas, and do we have a case to make some of our highways out in our part of the state divided or not? So the first thing I did is take the map. This is Kansas's traffic map. Sorry, people watching at home, because now I don't have a microphone, but you can definitely see where the interstates are. That's there, and so all these are color coded based on traffic. So you can definitely see that there's all these pink roads, but it's pretty hard to see everything else. So what I did is I went ahead and recolored it from dark to light. So instead of our middle color being light blue, now our middle color is a middle blue. And you can definitely see the difference between the old one and this one. You see the core 83. You see this traffic map over here. So just changing our color scale to one that makes sense is the first step in making a case that, well, it looks like we actually do have some traffic out in this area, and they might not even be seeing that. If KDOT doesn't actually come out here, and they only look at their color-coded map where you have light green and light blue as your middle density traffic, they might even not be realized that that's going on. The other thing I did is I scaled the size of these roads by the amount of truck traffic that's on it. So the color is overall traffic, the width of the road is truck traffic, and you can see the interstate got a little bit bigger, especially down in the Kansas City area. Some of our roads here got a little bit bigger. Some of these small county roads got a little bit smaller. But that was the first step. So the next thing I did, I said, well, let's go look at all the roads that are divided, that aren't inside of city, that's not an interstate. So I'm calling it a divided non-urban highway. Let's look at the divided non-urban highways around Kansas and see what kind of traffic they handle. So we have non-truck traffic, truck traffic, and this is the plot we get. Now we have somebody's pet projects over here, but we're going to ignore them. So we're going to say, in Kansas overall, what kind of traffic do we expect to see on divided highways? And this is what we get, and if you see, there's a definite, like, little threshold here. And that threshold means that if we do this, we can put an equation to this line here, and that's non-truck traffic plus 4 times the truck traffic. If it's equal to 9,000 or greater, that's about what we expect to see on a divided highway. So you can have some that have a lot of car traffic that's not truck traffic, and that gets divided, or that's divided, or we have some that not as much car traffic, but a decent amount of truck traffic. And so we have a line there. So what we can say is, well, let's take that threshold. Because this is the count, the truck count, the traffic counts. Let's take that threshold. Which parts of the roads have a number over 9,000? Because those are the ones that are operating like divided highways in Kansas, except for I highlighted all the ones that are doing that aren't already divided. So you can see there's a couple over here. There's a little bit north of Pittsburgh here. There's this bypass to Wichita that's going on 50. But you can see the majority of the roads that are operating like a divided highway that aren't divided yet is our triangle area. We have Mullinville out, this would complete all the way out to Wichita. And then we have our triangle here, for the most part, this already is divided, this needs to be divided, and so forth. So let's take a little bit look closer at this. And so I'm going to call this span from Mullinville out east, 1, Garden City to Dodge, 2, Liberal on 54 out east, 3, Liberal to Garden, 4, and then Garden to Scott, 5. So if we plot those traffics, they're in there. Those are already operating like we'd expect a divided highway in Kansas to operate. We're not saying that they need to be divided because we need to be able to spur development or something like that. They're already being used like they're divided. And not just kind of on the threshold. We have some of these that are being operated well past a good amount of these, because the further this way you go, the more overall congestion there is. So, I mean, the road between Garden and Dodge, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 divided highways that have less traffic than the roads that we already have that aren't divided. So we have a pretty good case that's going on there. And so some people might say, well, this is just your pet project. I mean, you're down by Southwest Kansas, and so you want the triangle to be done, and that's what you're going to do. And we hear from Hutchinson, and the Hutchinson, their project is that northeast passage, and they want their divided highway to Great Bend, and everybody has their project. Well, let's go plot that one. Well, and here it is. So I mean, sure, everybody has a project that they want to get divided, and they want to do it. But we're not talking about, well, if we build this, maybe we can get a lot more traffic between Great Bend and Hutchinson. We're saying we need to build it because it's already operating, it's already carrying the traffic of a divided highway. We need it because right now we need it. And if we build anything, this is 83 north and south. This, if you add a couple more trucks on here, that's past the threshold too of what we would expect a divided highway to operate like. So I think, yeah, that is my last. So the thing that we need to make the case for here is we're not talking about divide it and build it and then they will come. They're already here. They're running trucks all over the place. They should have been divided a long time ago. I mean, we're not asking for anything special, anything out of the ordinary. And passing lanes, I mean, we don't even have where passing lane traffic normally goes. I bet it's not over here on eastern Kansas. So that's the case. We submitted that to KDOT and did a whole write-up and all that stuff to go over all these slides. So we'll see how that reaction goes.
So this was submitted to the District 6 when they were doing their listening or whatever?
The local consult, the last one that we had in Liberal,
Liberal.
yeah,
And Liberal and Dodge and Garden and the other communities are all
yes.
part of this submission so that it's not take care of us and held with the rest of these guys?
No, this
Right.
was submitted
Okay.
actually on behalf of the Tri-City Coalition.
Okay.
So, and the reason I think it's effective is because we're not making any personal claims. We're showing that this as state priorities. I mean, this falls within how the state has operated.
Right.
All the other things. We're not making anything special. I mean, we're not trying to be this, and we're not trying to say, well, you built these things down here, so let's build this one too. We're saying just the normal ones. We're past the normal ones.
Right. Okay.
Okay, and then I think Tom wanted me to, okay, so I did a presentation to the Lions yesterday about housing, about highways, and then at the end, I said, I'm gonna put this at the end of all my presentations, and I won't make you see them every time, but Tom wanted me to put this on here. So this is the 10 things that's going on about Garden City right now. This is just kind of a summary of a lot of the different things I've been working on, or you see like in the chat presentation. So we've had an increase of 1,400, I guess I can go back over here. We've had an increase of 1,400 jobs over the last 5 years in Finney County. Our median household income has grown 6.4% since 2017. Our upward mobility in Finney County is in the top third of the nation, and this is a Harvard study that studied all the counties across the United States. They looked at parents that were in the bottom quartile of income and how did their kids do. And Finney County, that upward mobility, so that the kids, how high up are they in their percentile in their income, they were top third of the nation. And if we look at counties our size or bigger, we're in the top fifth of the nation of upward mobility. So when we're talking about can you come here with nothing, work hard, and make something for yourself and for your family, we have a study that says we're one of the best at doing that in the nation. Our population count in 2020 should show a 17% increase over 2010. Our trade area, we all know this, our primary trade area for sales is over 200,000 people. Our total trade area is over 500,000 people. September 2019 was the largest regular sales tax collection for Garden City in history and for the county as well. The city's mill rate has stayed essentially flat over the last 10 years, so we've done a lot of this growth without increasing the mill rates. And again, the first step is, well, my property tax went up. Well, that's because the value of our property has gone up. On the east side of Kansas, we've had $18 million of public investment, so local, state, federal investment of public dollars. That's led to $400 million in a private investment. To keep up with growth, Garden City needs to build 1 new housing unit every 3 days for the next 10 years.
My goodness.
And it presented this yesterday, so I hope we have one coming up in the next 2 days.
We're behind.
Short, yeah. And then every day, 2,800 people commute into Finney County for work. So this was, I said at the lines, I'm going to present this at the end of every one of my presentations, just to remind us how we're doing. And it's good to have this kind of stuff, especially when we're about to go to Thanksgiving and you're meeting with families. And my next slide on the presentation was, now it's your job during Thanksgiving to go tell somebody, family or friends over this break, when they say, hey, I'm not very happy that I'm in Amarillo and I'm just not feeling it, or I just had kids, I'd really like to move someplace that I can raise them in. Tell them, have you thought about moving to Garden City or Finney County or even Leota? I mean, have you thought about moving up here? Because we need the people, and we definitely are showing that we're doing good. So.
Is this something that you may be able to put on a card or something that we could have as talking points?
That was one of the things at Lions Club yesterday that when he got done and he presented this, almost half of the people that were there said, "Wow, can you print that off for us? Can you put that on hard copy?" So he provided the page for this one, and they emailed it out to all of the Lions members yesterday, just for that purpose. You ought to have that. But
that was a Lions exclusive. No, we can figure out something.
When you take the line that said, okay, we had the $18 million worth of government build out type thing versus the private investment, is there a way to take that and stretch it to show when we go to the state? We sat in front of Commerce and said, here's what you guys spent on Western Kansas, and here's what happened in the private sector, and here's what the private sector, in essence, pays back.
Yeah,
in other words, we have the city and the county and the state that all benefit from that $400 million, but can we quantify that? In other words, did we pay back the city
Right.
for the investment they made.
And that line came from that KDOT report that we put together, which was a map that showed where the investments were, like the intersection, like the 156 and Mary intersection,
Right.
and some of the work for DFA and stuff like that. So we even have all those projects separated out, who contributed to each of those projects. So was it a local, was it a federal, was it state, and how much? And then what was that private investment in there? So some of that private investment was like Meese, and some of it was TP&L and all that stuff. So on that line, we can get down to a map that we can show people. And I've actually been, as we've been doing more development and more investment on that area of town, I've been updating that map to keep up, so when we need to, we can just pull it and give
Yeah,
it.
But-
and yes, we could actually drill down further and, obviously, we're not going to get exact. We can't really calculate the indirect benefits, but property tax, for instance, that's been generated by these, and those, school
Well,
taxes,
There's
those
always
types
that
of
negative
things.
aspect of, my God, we're giving all of this money away.
Yeah.
And I think if we can say, you bet, this was a tax exemption.
Yep.
Here's what that property was paying before, and it's been exempted, and here's what it's paying now. But we also have to know and understand, like the DFAs of the world, they build that new monument, but a lot of it is equipment, which is tax-free. So, we can't just say we had this
Right.
much. We've got to go far enough to where we have a real number, because it would be fun to show from the top of that railroad bridge, shooting south down the phenomenal investment KDOT put in, and shoot that highway, and then shoot over to the left at the plant, and said, that was private, and this was state. How did we do? State, how do you look on this thing that you invested in? Because it's
Yeah.
coming apart big time.
Yeah, no, we absolutely can.
But I think,
Yeah.
we've got to get beyond arm waving, because just as you talk about at the map, they have so many more arms to wave at the other end of the state. And, we have to have really big arms,
Yeah, they
and we have to have something,
10-1.
yeah.
Well, and I will tell you, every time we've been using that map, that graphic that Shannon's talking about since before Steve Cottrell retired. He actually is the one who designed the original one. And every time that we've shown that through, we usually show it on our bus tour, we include it as one of the handouts for that the feedback that we get, and they're mostly folks, obviously, either from government agencies or they're from, all over the state of Kansas. The feedback we get on that graphic and how telling that story is really cool. People absolutely get it. We even have we have the ROI calculation just specifically, just capital investment, just saying, we got this much private leveraged with this much public. That number is impressive. So, yes, we can continue to
think-
play with that too.
You look at, like, at number 6 up there, when you look at the funds or I guess funds and support one way or the other, that the city and the county have put into this, and then you look at numbers like, this was the largest sales tax collection month that we've ever had. These all go back to that repayment of that municipal investment that generates that stuff. So it's quite a deal.
Well, and just reminding people that sales tax are funding a large amount of what our city and county do instead of property tax. That's why that mill levy can stay down there.
Yeah.
And just to be clear on 6, that the regular sales tax, I have that as non-holiday. So we did have the holiday sales tax collections was bigger this in 2019 and so forth. But we were almost to the point where September was almost bigger than the previous holidays as well. But I mean, holidays is hard to, you don't want to use those as your measurement of how are you doing. It'd be better just the day-to-day, so.
But these are really good, talking points, so keep it in mind, and if you're visiting with family or you run into a stranger on the street and looks like he might be lost and want to move up here or something, why? These are just some really good things to point out, and like Lana said, these are things that we point out every time we have group come in from wherever, any other economic development or city government group or county government group or whatever. These are things that they all get to see in that stuff, so.
One other comment back on your social media deal. I think with the path that we're seeing with our local newspaper organization, where it is slowly but surely going away, I think we need to focus a lot more of this kind of information and maybe a little broader cycle of local news through the greater Garden City, if that's possible.
Yeah.
Because we're fast
Yeah.
losing a way to
When I
share
was-
with people.
When I was pulling this data, it was interesting that and I didn't really mention too much about the football, the Garden City Bronchbusters winning Hutchinson, was top stories in both greatergardencity.com and on the Garden City Journal Facebook page. And we've never had sports stories come out as being one of our top posts on anything. So I think there is a shift in media where people are getting media from. So there's an audience to capture, I think, and then tell a good story as well at the same time, so.
You know, and who knows where the future of that's gonna be. There may have to be a solid alternative,
Yeah,
because it's kind of sad right now.
Yeah, it could be that one of these days we'll get all of that news or whatever by electronic media as opposed
Well,
to,
and you know, one of us,
Or print
the
anymore.
legal type deal is one of the few things that has to happen.
Yes,
And we have to find out how the best way to deliver that, so,
thank you.
thank you,
very good.
Shannon, well done.
Thanks, Shannon.
Good job.
Okay, won't have any new business, annual meeting date. I think Nicole indicated that we've been in contact with the college and we might have a couple of options for,
In the past couple of years, we've done that the first full week, which would be, this year would be the 8th, January 8th. I think anything that week would probably be okay with the college. The next couple of weeks, you're gonna be getting into, school will be starting, so I think in the past it's a little easier parking wise to do it on that week that they are out still. But
what are we looking at, a Wednesday? Or
that would be the Wednesday.
when,
January 8th is a Wednesday?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gone, but that's okay. I leave on the 7th,
there she goes.
but no, don't worry about that.
Does that work for the rest of you?
Or we can look at the 6th.
I was gonna say,
We can have it on that Monday while you would still be here, if that would work better.
Let's do it on the Monday,
Okay.
on the 6th.
Okay?
I don't want Bob to miss out on this.
That'd help me, I don't have to work.
Would it, you're off on Monday? Good,
Well, there you have it, see?
all right.
See, Bob?
We'll do it on January,
asked.
Good.
January
I like
the
it.
6th. Meeting at 10 o'clock. And
Annual meeting start at 11? Okay,
Okay. Very good.
all right, we'll get started on planning for that and programming and keep you posted then.
Okay,
And Nicole and I'll start cooking right now.
Way to go.
good. Old business, update on retail contract.
Yeah, just a quick update on that. We did have a call, the city approved the funding for us to contract with a retail recruiter. And we had another follow-up call with him. We went through a lot of the stuff that we've already done and how really prepared we are. We just literally need the connection between us and the retailers. And so he was open to negotiating the price for us, which we hoped he would be since we had done so much of the legwork up front. So we have another call set with him this morning, and hopefully we'll be able to enter into a contract with him. And he wants to start promoting Garden City locations in January at the next ISCS event. So, yeah, so we're very excited about that, and we'll keep moving forward.
One other item. a year or 2 or 3, however we remember those dates, we started a conversation between the community planning and development group and contractors and architects and everybody else is involved in delivering a project. And it was, the whole intent was to get everybody on the same page of what the expectations are. And we got started, we had a great first meeting, and it was gonna be a follow-up, and we haven't followed. We now have a new leader in that area. And it seems to me that we have a phenomenal team getting projects to the table of saying, okay, let's go build this. And then we kind of hit this wall. And everybody has this attitude, and I'm not gonna say that's not fair. Several people in that department have this attitude that this is our department, and no, you can't do that. And we recently, from a personal experience, delivered a project that we wanted to do, and they say, no, you can't do that. And, you know, it's $1 million project. And instead of saying, no, you can't do that, it says, well, you know, yes, you can do that, but you've got to do this, 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 and this. If we could somehow get that attitude shift to where we're all part of trying to get something accomplished, rather than prove that you cannot do that because I said so. We've got to get over that hurdle because everything else is working so good.
Yeah.
Well, and like you said, we do have new direction in the NDS. Maybe it just makes sense to rekindle that, have another sit-down discussion where we have, again, our building design professionals, our building professionals. Absolutely, we can get
And maybe
everybody, this is the right time of year to do that. Obviously, folks can't do as much
you know,
outside, so.
With this, every time a project like this is presented, we've found in the past, you know, you put it on the table and the immediate answer is, no, you can't do that. But then you sit down with them and you spend the next hour going over this stuff, and all of a sudden they find out that, well, yeah, we could, maybe we could rezone that, get that rezoned and make that work, or maybe we can modify this a little bit and make that work. But to do these things, you have to sit down and hammer out every little item on there. And
I can assure you, though, that you know, Carol's direction is very positive. She definitely wants to be customer-centric. She recognizes that we work really hard to get folks to invest in the community and to design and build projects, and she wants to be a part of a positive reaction there. So I will absolutely reach out to Carol, see if that's something we can put together shortly after, I would say after the first of the year, probably makes the most sense. But I will absolutely get with her and see if we can't just kind of, again, rekindle that.
Yeah.
Let's be positive. Let's say yes, but
Right.
instead of no. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Happy to do that.
And I think that's the real answer, is that yes, but, you know.
Yeah.
And go ahead and be able to work through the rest of it and make it happen, so.
Yep.
Okay, is there any other item that needs to come before the board at this time? You want about a 10-minute executive session?
Yeah, I can.
Or
settle for
5
that.
minutes, whichever works for you?
We'll go 10, and if we're done in 5, we leave, right?
All right,
Way to go.
we'll adjourn this meeting.
I mean, we adjourn this and go into executive session.
Thank you. And got a motion, do we have a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. We'll adjourn this meeting, reconvene in executive session in 1 minute. And,
Don't go anywhere.
yeah. Move this right ahead.